Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Thursday night, the 12th of August. I'm already rushing into October. The 12th of August, 2021. The Joe and Joe Show brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. I'm sorry. Yes, in Lindenhurst on Long Island. I'm having a tough time getting started tonight. The phone number there is 631-957-5106. Whether you want your home decorated or maybe you want to do the decorating as part of your business, give them a call or go to their website, which is liholidaylighting.com. Although 631-957-5106 is the phone number. And we also are brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon for mulch, topsoil, salt when the winter comes, and of course, emergency preparedness supplies in case we get a tropical storm or a hurricane down the road. 631-756-1125 is the phone number there for the best prices in town. And the website is Joe Rayo. Joe Rayo,
Hello.
what's the website?
Well, for who?
Omni.
Or for what? For Omni?
Yeah.
www.omni.com?
No. Omni True
www.
Value.
True
For,
Value.
nobody does the www anymore, Joe. That went out with the rotary telephone. You just go.
Come on.
It's omnitruevalue.com. And what's the other one for Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini? What's their website?
The www.giannini.com?
No, it's liholidaylighting.com.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm just so glad you pay attention to these things. All right, here we are on a Thursday night. We have tropical storm watches up for the Florida Keys and for the west coast of Florida all the way up to Bonita Beach. But I am going to tell you right now, Mr. Rayo, that Fred will absolutely not be a hurricane by the time it gets to the Florida Keys, and I'm starting to really kind of have my doubts. This is really probably, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, it'd be hard pressed for this to get much beyond a middle to at most a mid-range tropical storm as it moves its way up. And you look at the satellite tonight, and you look at the loops from this afternoon. It has an awful lot of work to do as far as getting organized is concerned.
Well, Joe, this and let me ask you a question. Do you think that 20 or 30 years ago, Fred would have been designated as Fred would have even been given a name?
Yeah, no, they closed it off. They closed it off, and the pressure was down low enough, and they had enough there to make it a tropical storm. I'm not questioning that part of this. I'm just looking at the whole upper air setup across the Southwest Atlantic and back over to Florida at the moment is just not. It's not conducive for tropical cyclone development. It just isn't. There's way too much. There's way too much shear going on.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
people
having
down in Florida are probably looking at this. Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm having
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no. I'm having some audio issues. I'm not sure what the problem is. I thought I cleaned
Ethel
up.
Tutilli.
Ethel Tutilli. Well, hang on. Let me just get this map off because that might free up. Sometimes I may have too many windows open and it gets in the way. But as far as the loop is concerned, I pulled up the water vapor imagery loop here, and the problem is among so many. First off, the center of circulation, from what I can see from the visible, there's one center that's out in here where it's basically there's nothing going on. I could see hints of maybe another center trying to reform underneath where some of the convection is. But you take a look at all of this, Joe. You got everything is blowing from west to east in the mid and high levels of the atmosphere. There's just so much shear here that
Just
it's
ripping it to shreds.
yeah. I mean, it just doesn't. The actual the mechanism is there, but if you've got this moderate shear going on, it's just not going to do it. It's not going to be able to do anything as far as strengthening is concerned. And now I just kind of switched over. I switched over now to the visible satellite, and it's a little bit more obvious on this what's happening. And there's an upper low that's sitting to the northeast of this. Okay, it's just sitting out there spinning away. There's another upper low that's kind of tucked in northeast Florida that's spinning away. And between the two of these things, you're getting, this westerly shear that's running right across through the Florida Straits and right over where the center of Fred is. And if I'm going to take the lines away, but I'm kind of looking at this visible, and it looks to me like they talked about it on the 5 o'clock advisory that there might be multiple centers here, and I can kind of see that on the visible part before it goes to the IR. It looks like there's a couple of vortices spinning around. So until it can consolidate into one center and get out of the way of get the shear out of the way, I really don't think it's going to be able to do very much.
No, it's, I was about to say, I think the folks who are down in Florida are looking at this, and if they've been around for a good long time, they're probably just saying, "Oh, well, it's gonna bring, some rain, could be heavy in a few places, but nothing really to get too overly excited about." It doesn't certainly look like it's going to be anything in terms of a major wind maker. Just, as the folks who are down in Florida are used to at this time of the year, just another round of very heavy rain, and that'll be it.
Yeah. Now, once it gets into the Eastern Gulf, there are a couple of things that we have to watch out for as it moves, northwestward, and that's another issue here, in my opinion. If we wind up seeing a weaker system through all of this, that might take that low-level center further to the west, and I think what's being reflected now when we look at the at the tracking at the hurricane track models. I'll pull those up in a second, but I just want to show everybody, this large area of shear. This is even on Saturday morning. There's early Saturday morning. There's just so much shear here. Westerly winds from the Florida Straits still going out to the east, and that little bump right in here, right in there. That little bump is probably where the low center is. It's just sitting there, just tucked in under all this westerly shear. Now, what happens is after early Saturday morning, you start to see the shear diminish. The upper low out in the Atlantic Ocean pulls away. The upper low that's over Florida opens up and becomes an open trough there from western South Carolina down into the northeast Gulf of Mexico. So suddenly now you're popping a low up in an area of lighter shear, but look at where the surface center is on the GFS. I mean, it went from yesterday and the day before trying to take something inland over Florida. Now it's got a surface low at 23 and 84 and a half. I mean, it gets pretty far out there, and then it starts to lift up to the north. Now, gradually, as we go through Sunday into Monday, conditions become a little more favorable, but they're certainly not ideal for tropical cyclone strengthening. Might be enough to bring it up to a mid-range tropical storm when it reaches up the Florida Panhandle, but I just don't see this getting, at least given what I'm looking at now, I just don't see this getting much beyond that.
Oh, yeah, they say that it's in an environment of westerly vertical wind shear of about 20 knots, and it is expected to persist through the next day or so. So that combined with the current disorganization, we just saw how disorganized it is of the system, should prevent any kind of strengthening. So after that, it's going to kind of stagger north. And you're right, with that kind of a situation, it's going to be tough. If you're thinking that it might actually intensify to a high class tropical storm or even a Cat 1 hurricane, it's going to be a long, hard haul for this. And the thing looks like indeed it's going to be making landfall probably somewhere. It's coming so close, Joe, to the Keys. Now, if the Florida Keys, but those islands are so small. Um, if it does, let's say between Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, if it does go across the Keys, does that qualify as a landfall? I don't. I
I think
guess it
only
does.
I only think if the center is kind of if they observe the center going right over one of the islands or over Key West, then I think
Yeah,
it would be considered a quote unquote landfall. But when you've got something
but the
that's
real
when you got
but
something
the real
that's
landfall.
a broad center, I don't know how you figure that out.
It's more like it. For folks in the Panhandle, the Tallahassee area, the real landfall. I mean, it's going to make land and it's going to fall, so to speak. Probably will come around midnight on Sunday night, and then it just moves straight up. And guess what, Joe? It's going to be in your backyard by early Tuesday, so it looks like you're going to be getting some rain, courtesy of Freddie.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
the bigger deal here is the bigger deal here is going to be rain, and if it's one of these systems that takes its time moving northward, it's going to prolong the rainfall, particularly over Florida, because a broad a tropical storm has a certain usually is not it's not like a hurricane, which is very much tightened up, but when you have a tropical storm in the formative stages and you've got a broad area of tropical moisture kind of feeding up from south to north. So anything on the east side of wherever the center tracks is going to wind up seeing prolonged heavy rain. So I think that would favor Florida and then eventually into Georgia. And maybe, just maybe, it filters up in through the southern and central Appalachians over time, sometime next week, depending on the upper flow. But just looking at these tracking models, we talked yesterday. Now the westernmost, forget the red one there that goes inland near Mobile and then curls back to almost to southeast Louisiana. I'm going to discount that curl back, but if you just follow the tracks along, now the westernmost track is at about Mobile, Alabama, whereas yesterday it was just inside the Florida Alabama state line. So it's the westernmost tracks have gotten a little further west. The easternmost tracks have not really changed very much. So this looks like, to me, it sort of indicates that you're going to be dealing with a weaker system that's going to move more with the low level flow, and that's going to probably take it a bit further to the west than was previously indicated by the guidance. And by speaking of which, the intensity guidance, a couple of them bring it up to about maybe 50 knots, but that's it. Most of them from minimal tropical storm to about 50 knots. And there's a whole bunch of them, by the way. There's a whole bunch of these intensity models that never bring it back to tropical storm strength. And I think that's a possibility that you could wind up with a depression here or an open wave the rest of the way.
and it's interesting too. Yesterday we had two distinct, I call them camps, two distinct paths parallel to each other, taking the storm northward and inland over the southern United States. And now it doesn't look like two distinct paths anymore. The spaghetti plots look like more or less a wide zone, so to speak, for the storm tracking. So one way or another, it is going to come inland. Where exactly is still anybody's guess. And you're right, in terms of intensity, not likely to get much stronger than maybe 40 or 50 knots at most. Does not look like it's going to be winding up into a surprise in terms of even a Category 1 hurricane.
All right. Now, just as a little bit of a disclaimer here, um, these of course are never to be humble opinions, and the Hurricane Center, they're the go-to place for your weather information. And if you read through a lot of, what they're talking about today, I mean, they're not particularly bullish on this in terms of strengthening either. So we're sort of all on the same page here. We're all seeing the same things, but bear in mind that we could look at this tomorrow or on Saturday, and maybe that upper low that's up in North Florida and Georgia winds up retrograding back westward and perhaps creating a much more favorable environment for strengthening later in the weekend or going into Sunday night, Monday. Not what we're saying here. I mean, is we're making educated guesses based on the best models that we have in front of us, but it's still subject to change here. So we could come in tomorrow and look at this and say, well, no, it looks like maybe the shear is going to relax and maybe it is going to strengthen. So if you're watching from Florida, just, I'm sure the folks, if they're watching in Florida and the southeastern part of the United States, they understand this. So, they understand the variability of it. But right now, based on what we're looking at, this could very well be a wet tropical system, a wet tropical storm when it comes up, and not be much more than that.
I believe so. And like I said, I think the Floridians, the people who are, especially in West Florida and the Panhandle area, they're not too overly concerned. To them, it's just going to be another siege of clouds and rain. It does not look like anything destructive in terms of wind. I'm sure that a lot of them will probably just shrug their shoulders and say, oh well, what else is new? It is after all August. So
all right.
There you go.
The 5 o'clock advisory, 21-3, 75-3, latitude and longitude. Top winds of 35, moving west-northwest at 12. It's tropical depression Fred. We'll have the new advisory by 8 o'clock. We'll see where the new position is, but they're not going to change. There's no new forecast until 11. But you can see the track here from the Hurricane Center really hasn't changed too much from yesterday. Nor the idea of getting it back to tropical storm strength and just kind of leaving it there as it moves northwestward up through the eastern Gulf of Mexico, makes a pass over the Florida Keys sometime Saturday morning or by early afternoon. The 2 p.m. position is actually just north of Key West. And then by sometime, I would say, 2 a.m. Monday, maybe, making some sort of landfall in either on the Panhandle or possibly it could be a little further east. I'm thinking if it stays weaker, it'll wind up being a little bit further west. I'm thinking the Panhandle and then just sort of drifting its way northward slowly from there up along the Georgia-Alabama border. And again, this track would suggest that, the heaviest rains are going to wind up being in a shield like this. That's where your heavier rains are going to wind up occurring with this. And I believe WPC on their 7-day forecast, I mean, if you follow that tongue of orange and red from Florida northward to Georgia and then up the central Appalachians into western and central Virginia, just kind of visualize the track of the low is sort of on the western edge of the heaviest rains. So follow that red line, and that kind of tells you where WPC is thinking the track of this is going to be. So they would from the rainfall, you probably would have a track that would look something like this.
Right.
Yeah. So that I think makes sense. I'm not sure about the top end of this right now, but I could certainly see that being as the best possibility, the possibility with the highest probability of happening is that. But you see pretty substantial rainfalls, though. I mean, 5 inches or more, some 10-inch amounts down in southern Florida being forecast, 7 to 10 inches in a small area in southern Florida, and 5 to 7 inches running up further to the north. So this is going to be a substantial rain producer.
Yep. Break out the bumper shoots.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back home because we had some severe weather, and James Harris sent me. Apparently, 6 people were injured in a lightning strike on Orchard Beach today from the thunderstorms that developed. And instead of being to our south today, well, you got them yesterday, but for the last couple of days, the bulk of the severe weather has been basically south of Route 78 in New Jersey and south of Route 80 in Pennsylvania. Today, they were reverse. They formed a little sooner, and they moved across northeastern Pennsylvania. Did you get into any of that today?
No,
No.
nothing. Not a drop.
Yeah,
Second
they
day in a row we've had hardly anything here.
yeah they passed south of you, and just about all of it's gone. We also had some stronger thunderstorms in upstate New York along I-90, but those have weakened now and moved into Massachusetts and southern Vermont and New Hampshire. There are some strong cells. You see those two severe thunderstorm warnings that pop up on the radar in Rhode Island, and those thunderstorms have disappeared. Meanwhile, it's very busy in western PA. There's a really nice looking line here, meteorologically nice looking, by the way. It's,
Yeah.
it's just before, so I don't, so I don't get misinterpreted here. But we've got about half a dozen severe thunderstorm warnings and a couple of flood advisories at play right now in western Pennsylvania. Now, I'm thinking that that area should weaken as it moves east, but we've seen it happen the last couple of nights where a couple of stray cells survive and then they move through during the early morning hours. So just I guess I'll have to watch the radar to see what happens to these as they continue to track eastward. And also seeing some rather strong thunderstorm activity across central Missouri. Looks like we have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings up around St. Louis at the moment, and also in parts of southern Indiana and back down through parts of Colorado and Kansas, so seeing some strong thunderstorms developing there, on down to New Mexico and into Arizona. West coast of Florida, getting some showers and thunderstorms tonight. Back across the panhandle, they become more scattered. And over me today, nothing. We had severe thunderstorms all around me last night, and I missed them. The bulk of them, I kind of got the edge of a couple of them, but some of the areas surrounding me were hit pretty hard last night. But today, nice and quiet and sunshine for most of the day. I actually got into the 80s today.
Still no 90.
Not here. I
Yeah.
think Atlanta got to 90, but I did not. Still no 90. And Johnny Quest asks, does WPC take mountains into account when they issue their rain amounts? I believe they do. I've seen their forecast. I've seen enough of their forecasts over a long period of time. They get pretty detailed. Joe, you remember that one time I think it was over the wintertime, they put a snowfall. Was it a snowfall over like a tiny spot in Ohio, and it turned
Right.
out that that's where their highest elevation is. So yeah, they get
Right.
pretty detailed on their map. So yeah, they do that. They definitely do take that into account.
Absolutely. No snow yet.
No,
except
no.
except up in northern Alaska, where one of our people on the chat board made a notation yesterday about that.
Yes.
Northern Railroad, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alaska Railroad. One of our regulars. I don't see him on tonight. Now, for the first time in days, I'm looking at this U.S. satellite loop, Joe, and this is about as good as it has looked from the standpoint of smoke. I mean, there is some, but it's not nearly as bad or as widespread as what we've been seeing on and off for the last 3 weeks.
Right, and I'm also looking, Joe, at that one area of convection. I'm wondering whether or not that's going to have a say or a play in the weather in Iowa. Right now, the Yankees and the White Sox are playing the Field of Dreams game on that field in the cornfield out in Iowa. They had 8,000 people watching, and it's a national television audience. But I'm wondering how the rain or thunderstorm activity is relative to where they happen to be.
Well, here's the radar. I got the radar up. I mean, there's no thunderstorm activity going on in Iowa at all. And there's a bit of rain in southeastern Iowa and maybe a heavier shower or two. But I would say 85% of the state is not seeing a thing here, and it's all moving east and east southeast.
Good.
So
okay, that's good.
So clouds,
Unless,
yes.
Yeah, unless Dyers, I think it's Dyersville or Dyersburg, Iowa, which quite frankly, I really don't know. I didn't look up where it is relative, let's say, some of the other larger towns and communities in Iowa, like Des Moines. But yeah, they have clouds there. But yeah, you're right. Unless they happen to be somewhere in the southeastern part of the state, it looks like they're going to be pretty well and free of any rainouts or rain delays. Thankfully, this evening.
And by the way, I do have a poll up on the chat board tonight, and the poll is about this weekend and the dew point relief. And the question is a simple one: will the dew point get below 50 this weekend in New York City? That is the poll question. And so far, Joe, it's 54 votes. 30% say yes. And by the way, it only has to get to 50 for 1 hour. Okay, 1 hour on the observation. 30% say yes. 70% say no. So if you haven't voted on the poll, by all means, cast your vote and leave us the chat board's opinion on what's going to be happening weather-wise this weekend with respect to the low humidity. And the chairman hitting super chat tonight. Central Park at 90 degrees today for the 13th time. It's the average for a summer is 17, so there's still 4 to go to get to average. And Mother Briller is watching ice skating videos on YouTube. She's working on her triple Lutz. I'm telling you, come this winter, she's going to be turning triple axles and triple Lutz and triple sockhows, and we won't push her for a quad though. We'll just stick with the triple. We know she can do the triple.
And I was I voted yes for 50 or below for dew point on Sunday, Joe. I looked at the numbers and on the GFSX, the extended forecast for Sunday, they have New York City at a dew point of 49. So that's good enough for me. The last couple of days have been, right around that 50 mark. I said, okay, it looks like there may be just enough of a push of drier air to make things more livable or tolerable. And by the way, they were talking about, we're going to be in the midst of a heat wave by this time. New York City apparently is not, because New York City only hit 89 yesterday at Central Park. They was stopped from reaching 90. The official definition of a heat wave, 3 consecutive 90-degree days. Well, everybody all around New York seemed to have hit 90, but New York itself did not. They
What
only
was
got
the
to
high?
89.
What was the high there today? I mean, it
According
hit
to Mr.
90,
Briller,
it hit 90, but was that the high today?
I'll have to look this up for you.
Would you please?
So, yes,
Out
I
of
will.
curiosity.
I will. We'll see what
And
they
and,
did.
and then of course check Newark and see if the 5-degree rule is still working.
All right. Well, first of all, let's past climate weather, daily climate report. And today, the high temperature at Central Park was 93 degrees. They hit that at 2:57 p.m. The
Right.
record was 97, so they came within 4 of the record, but not quite. As far as Newark is concerned, Newark, let's see what they sometimes you have to play around with these things to get it. So what did Newark hit today? Newark, the high today apparently for them was, yep, Joe, you're right, the 5-degree rule in effect.
Unbelievable.
98.
Unbelievable. It has been so consistent that they have been running about 5 degrees higher on days like today. It's amazing that number 5 shows up almost every time. And they're beating and they're beating out LaGuardia too.
There were 3 consecutive hours at 2:51, 3:51, and 4:51 of 97. So somewhere in that time frame, they apparently did touch 98 degrees. And
can you check Washington D.C. because this morning I think they had on the map, on the high temperature map for today, on the dot that is supposed to be Washington, I think they had 100 there. So I'm just kind of curious if Washington and Baltimore, what they got to.
We'll check it out. Okay, so what did Washington have? What did our nation's capital have today? An error occurred while processing your request. Let's try that again. And again, the same thing. So apparently I can't, let me try Baltimore. Same thing. Joe, everything down there cannot be processed. Their error markers on
Really?
all the temperatures
I
in
find that
around.
utterly outrageous. Really,
Warrington, nothing. Yeah.
it is just outrageous to me that is the case. Um, Let me see. I'm going to see if I can do it. Let's see what we got here.
Well, if they like you, maybe then I like me.
Well, let's see. Well, you know, it's funny because I was trying to get a page on WPC yesterday, and I kept getting the page that kept coming up saying, "This is a forbidden." This is the word "forbidden"
But not
was
allowed.
up there.
You're not allowed to have it. You're not allowed to
Right.
have it, Joe.
Okay. So
And
national today, the high temperature today was 96 at 3:57 p.m. The record high for the date is 99, set back in 1900, 1926, and 2016. And the low was 74, and the record low was 55. That was set back in the glory days of 1889. And Baltimore today, a high of 98, which was also hit at 3:55 p.m. after a morning low of 73. The record high in Baltimore today was 99, set back in 1900, and the record low was 54 back in 1962. And by the way, the normal high this time of year in Baltimore is 87, and the average high is 87, and the average low is 66.
it was a hot one out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, how was
you're
it?
right to that, but you're right.
How was it that I was able to get this and you weren't?
I don't know. What did you do? You just simply
I went to
went down to.
weather.gov and I clicked on the local office on the geography around Washington D.C. and then I clicked on past weather and pulled up their climate
I went to
page.
the Baltimore. I went to Baltimore, Washington National Weather Service, where the Baltimore, Washington National Weather Service, and clicked on various spots on the map. And each time I clicked, there was nothing. They
Really?
wouldn't allow me to. Yeah,
Hmm.
believe it or not.
Well, that's interesting. I was able to get in perfectly, with no problem whatsoever.
Well, they like you, Joe. They
I
like you better than they like me.
I suppose. All right, I got the European up. Uh, it's the upper high off the East Coast. This is for Saturday morning. And of course, Fred is going to travel around the periphery of that upper high. Here's the trough that is running from northern Canada. The bottom of that trough gets down into the Ohio Valley. And yeah, most of that trough kind of shears off to the northeast, but enough low level dry air gets in here. The trough lifts out. The ridge builds back. Now the European has, and the GFS also has backed off on that whole kind of bizarre looking ridging in southeastern Canada. Instead, it has the Atlantic ridge strengthening again. So this would suggest, if you follow the path of the upper high, let me just clean this up. Here's the height line that goes around the upper high, and I have the map here for Sunday. And then there's a little bit of troughing there that runs from the Great Lakes down into Missouri that any tropical moisture will attempt to go up and around the edge of that high. And the high actually strengthens a bit as we go into Monday and Tuesday and into Wednesday. But later next week and going into next weekend, Joe, the trough looks like it wants to drop back in a bigger way. In there's a cutoff low fairly wrapped up on the European near James Bay. And this would, to me, suggest that sometime next weekend that we'll probably have a more significant cold front. And I think it may set up for another decent shot of dry air to come in behind it. Until then, I guess we go back once we get through the dry air early next week and here in the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states, we're just going to go back to humidity. I don't know how much heat we're going to go back to, but we are going to go back to some humidity. And then we'll have to see whether any of that southern moisture winds up coming up to bring in the risks for showers and thunderstorms at certain points during next week.
Well, it's supposed to be, as I mentioned yesterday, once we get into later Saturday through Sunday and into next week, it looks like the dew points are going to stay pretty much in the 50s for well, it's more than a few days. So that's our relief, really, after yesterday and today, and one more time, one more go around tomorrow. Um, my wife is looking at her poor tomato plants and saying, "When are we going to get some rain?" Well, maybe tomorrow,
Well,
honey.
why
Maybe
can't you
tomorrow.
just water them?
That's what it is. I mean, shit, you have to go out in the heat, humidity, pull out the hose, turn it on, you
No, no,
like to,
no.
be
No,
able
no,
to
no, no,
watch this
no,
from inside.
no, 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 no. Let's rephrase what you just said. You have to go out and pull out the hose and be in the heat and humidity. Okay. So I don't see what the
uh,
problem is here. I just,
and not
oh,
only is she doing it not only is she doing it here, she's my kids are away on their honeymoon, and so you get these little texts from Hawaii. Mom, can you go and water the tomatoes and the vegetables in our and it's more difficult there because they've got this little I won't call it a house, but they've got like a place where all the vegetables are within a little fencing or whatever, and she has to get the hose, drag it all the way out like 50 or 75 feet or whatever, and get in there with the hose. And try doing that when it's like 95 degrees with a heat index of 110.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you have to go there and drag the hose,
No, I'm not doing it.
and yeah, you're not doing that. Okay.
Hey, I'm getting up. I'm getting up early on at the crack of dawn on Sunday to go to the airport to pick them up, the two lovebirds or whatever. So
Mark G says I'm pouring gas on the fire here.
yeah.
Well, you know what? That is a
uh,
good suggestion, and just burn the plants down, and just this way there's no watering issue.
oh, believe me,
By
they'll
the
be
way,
getting hot
Alfred
outside. Just standing
Alfred
out there and just
Alfred Phillips from Wainwright, Alaska, on the chat board tonight to let us know that it's 34 where he is on the North Slope.
but and my wife says, "Oh no, Joe does nothing in the garden!"
Now here's a better one.
Exclamation
Joe
point!
won't lift the
Exclamation!
hose. Are you kidding me? All right, let's go to SPC because there's two severe thunderstorm watches that are up. Uh, Let me make sure that this is the latest because it's kind of weird what they're doing here. Yeah, they did put one up for Eastern New York. They extended it and then now they took it down. But we still have a severe thunderstorm watch up in western and central Pennsylvania because of that line that's in western PA that's holding together quite well and moving eastward. The Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. Now this goes back to a couple of days ago where they had that 15% slight risk, and then they sort of backed off with just a marginal risk. And the forecast has not changed from what they had up yesterday. They haven't changed it really today. It's pretty much the same. I think they're going to stick in a slight risk in here when it's all said and done. When we look at this tomorrow morning, it's just a guess on my part. But you can see this is a cold front that's actually coming through. So and the risk is going to be for wind. There's no tornado risk being indicated, just a 5% risk of strong winds for tomorrow. And then going on
yeah,
to
they even had an enhanced area
today.
on the map today,
Yes,
but there was no tornado risk.
yeah, they put the enhanced area on. They popped it on around late this morning, and out to the west in western Pennsylvania. And I believe it might. Let me just take a look. Is it still up on the day one outlook? Let's see. Uh, it's loading.
Did they take it down?
No, no, they still have it. They still have this narrow area of enhanced from eastern Ohio and from western into central PA. So, and that again, that's following that line that we looked at earlier. That's moving to the east. So let's look at how the GFS plays this out. Then we'll take a look at what the Hurricane Center is saying and kind of wrap this up for tonight. But tomorrow here comes your cold front with some showers and storms. The last run of the GFS the 18Z, not particularly bullish here. with thunderstorms, but you got to be careful with that. There's the models. A lot of times they really don't pick up on the extent of thunderstorms. The front, the front hangs a little bit on Saturday morning, and then we just kind of get a little bit of a dew point line to come through around midday or early afternoon. So the dew points will drop off. There'll probably be some showers and storms down in Virginia, North Carolina. And also, by the way, if you take a look, their 1013 low that you see there indicated Saturday afternoon at about 23.5 north and 82.7 west. That is what the GFS says is Fred, and it can't even really hold on to the low center. It's got a little closed isobar, Joe. It does nothing with it. It just kind of brings the rain up through Florida into Georgia and South Carolina. We've got high pressure building in for Sunday. I think the weekend overall to me looks fine, and we should hold on for Monday. And yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this. The high settles south of Long Island on Tuesday, just kind of sits there into Wednesday. Will turn more humid as we go through the middle and latter part of next week, and then a stronger cold front comes at the end of the week, and the low that you see at the end of next week is probably the system that's way out in the tropical Atlantic, which the last run of the GFS was trying to wrap up into a hurricane and take it into South Carolina. On this run,
Right.
It strengthens it. It forms a low over on an old frontal boundary and makes it into a tropical storm and takes it out to Bermuda, because there's another cold front coming down that just sort of sweeps it out to the east. So that falls into the who knows, and at this point, who cares category.
Exactly.
Right. And here we are. Let's go take a look at the 8 o'clock stuff and see what we got here from the Hurricane Center. And we now have on the system that's out in the Atlantic, 1,100 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, a 70% probability of developing into a tropical depression over the weekend, over the next 48 hours, and a 70% probability over the next 5 days. We've got to watch that shear area, though, because that may keep that system from developing into anything important. And as far as Fred is concerned, they do note that Fred is slowing down along the north shore of Cuba. There's an Air Force reconnaissance aircraft there right now investigating. It's at 21.3, 75.0, moving west-northwest at 7, and top winds are 35 miles an hour. Let's pull the recon up. Let's see what if there's anything there that's worth noting. And by the way, if you've never done this before, if you go on Tropical Tidbits and just click on aircraft recon, you can pull up the recon missions. And it looks like they're kind of early on in the game here as far as investigating this thing is concerned. The plane isn't even, it's at 74.5 and flying northward. They haven't gone all the way around to close off a center, or if we see any northwest winds anywhere. So still too early in this investigative game of the latest reconnaissance aircraft to glean any important information. So anyhow,
let me ask you one question. Would you, if you were given the invitation to fly into
no,
that answers that question.
No. I you know what? Maybe when I was in my 20s, when in your 20s you don't think about mortality, but no,
You think you're invincible?
Yeah, no, I have no interest, no desire. I really don't. It's not my thing. You?
No. Hey, I can't even go. I have not even been on the Dragon coaster at Rye Playland.
Neither have I.
But I
don't do roller coasters.
See, there was a time about 5 or 7 years ago, I forget now exactly. My 2 kids and my wife, I was left on the street. They went on the Cyclone
with a
at
tin
Coney
cup,
Island.
with a tin cup and glasses, and a sign.
So they went to Coney Island and went on the Cyclone, that giant roller coaster. And compared to some of the other roller coasters, it's not so giant anymore. But they said, "Come on, Dad, come on, come on." No, don't ask me again.
No, I have gone on Space Mountain at Disney, not in many years, but the last time I was there, which was probably well over 20 something years ago. But I have gone on Space Mountain a few times because that's in the dark, so I can't see where the drops are. And that ride is more speed than anything else, and I'm okay with fast things that go fast. But no, if I can see where it's dropping from point A to point B, if I can actually see it, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Nope.
Right.
That's it. Not doing it.
Yeah. See, my wife will say, "Oh yeah, I'd go." She'd get on. I'd say, "Good, go on the big airplane, fly into the Category 3 hurricane, and if you make it back, send me a postcard."
Or and do please make sure you sign this insurance paper
Right,
that says I
exactly.
get hundreds of thousands of dollars if if something does happens, which God forbid.
Right,
We're all talking in
right,
theory here because none of us are doing it. Not doing it.
right, right.
Wait, Joe, you and I only have maybe what 20 or 25 years left on this great earth. So why am I going to take that risk now?
Do I really have that much?
I
20, 25 years?
Yeah, you got time.
You really, really? All
You
right.
you got time. You got time before you turn into dust. And that dust
I
was a gift from Mr. and Mrs. W.C. Ridgway of
in
Hollyhock,
the
Virginia.
in the July edition of Sky and Telescope magazine, I wrote an article about how it's 40 years. The countdown is now 40 years until the return of Halley's comet
Mm-hmm.
in 2061, and the article comes to an end. It says, this little bio thing at the end of the writer. It said Joe Rayo saw Halley's comet from Easter Island in 1986. When the comet returns in 2061, he'll be 105. Good luck, Joe. Good luck. Stick to my vitamins and do a lot of good wishing, but so it goes.
Yes.
And Renata
Okay.
is saying the two of us are wimps.
Yes, we are.
We
Next.
are.
So we have a Briller Jeopardy tonight, and we're still on this music theme. So it's your turn now to
Suffer.
so yes. Here are the songs, and you need to guess the artist. Okay. So the first
Oh,
one,
good luck to me.
yes. So the first one is. Um, Now I think you might get this one because you mentioned the other day that he's among one of your favorite um, artists. Sunday Morning Sunshine is the title of the song.
Is that Nat King Cole?
No, it's not Nat King Cole.
Harry Chapin?
It's Harry Chapin. That is correct.
Haven't Chapin. Sunday
Sunday
Morning
Morning
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
I don't recall that one.
All right. Well,
My favorite, my favorite, my favorite Harry Chapin song is, and everybody will say, "Oh, it's got to be Cats in the Cradle," or "It's got to be Taxi." No, my favorite Harry Chapin song, and if you're a fan, you'll understand what this is all about. 30,000 pounds of bananas. That's one of my favorite Harry Chapin songs.
all right. Number 2 on the list tonight is Against the Wind.
Against the wind,
Yeah, something
against the
like
wind.
that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard the song, but I mean, who sings it? That's the good. That's the part about that I don't know. Billy Joel. I don't.
Bob Seger and the
Bob Seger.
Silver Bullet Band.
Okay.
Now the next song falls into the category, at least for me when I saw it, it falls into the category of it's been done in probably within the last 15 or so years. So the likelihood of me doing it is about as likely as me going on a recon flight into a hurricane. The song is called Hot and Cold.
Hot and cold. That's it's not. It's not. Um, could you give me at least one little hint? Is it male or female?
Female.
Female.
And
Who's
half of the name, the last name, is the first name of our favorite attorney.
Oh, it's Katie Mason.
The other
Is it
name,
Katy
Katy
Perry, right?
Perry.
Right.
Yes, it's Katy Perry. The next one is Sunshine on My Shoulders.
I know that. I know. Is that Bob Denver?
That is John Denver. Bob Denver was Gilligan on Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan.
But since you brought Gilligan up, I was doing a little bit of research the other last week. I was reading up on Tina Louise, and uh, and her part as Ginger, and just
He
reading
was
in general.
explaining. She claims that when they approached her with the script, that she was going to be the star of the show of
Well,
Gilligan's Island.
well, do you know that? Do you know who was actually who they wanted for that part and offered the part to her, but she turned it down?
Raquel Welch.
No, but uh, I read that. I was when I read this, I was actually surprised. Jane Mansfield,
Jane Mansfield. Whoa.
who, by the way, is the mother of Mariska Hargitay, whose son, been doing Law and Order, SVU, solving crimes in sport utility vehicles
Right.
for the last 20 years. Yeah, Jane Mansfield was offered the part of Ginger, and she turned it down.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I
Why?
I don't know, but she did. And
Wow.
and Natalie Schaefer, okay, Natalie Schaefer died when she died. Her estate was worth many millions of dollars because apparently she was a big real estate mogul.
Right.
So she
And she
actually,
actually she actually was on I Love Lucy in one episode, I
yes,
believe.
uh, yeah. Well, that was with Phoebe Emerson's Charm School.
Right.
One doesn't walk around like a sack of meal. One glides. The line, I can't remember. I cannot. For the life of me, I can't remember half the things I do in a given day. But I can remember these ridiculous lines
Oh,
from shows from 20 years ago. Okay, the next song is "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head."
oh I remember. All right. B.J. Thomas.
That is correct. The next song is "The Wind Beneath My Wings."
Oh, that was Bette Midler.
That is correct. The next
Right.
song was actually the second half of a double-sided hit. "Let's the Sunshine In."
Let the sunshine.
Yes,
Let.
that's pretty good. You actually sang that on key. "Let the
uh,
Sunshine In."
wasn't that part of Hair?
It was in Hair, yes, but who sang it?
I know. Yeah, and the other side was Aquarius, right?
Yes.
This is the dawning of the age of. Um, Wait a minute. Give me a few moments here. Damn, I know. Fifth Dimension.
That is correct. The Fifth Dimension. Very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Rainy. You should get this one. This is easy. "Rainy Days and Mondays"
Oh, Karen Carpenter.
of the
My
Carpenters. Yes.
my sweetie, my sweetie.
Uh,
Karen Carpenter.
"We Didn't Start the Fire."
That was Billy Joel.
And the last song is titled "Hurricane."
That's it.
That's it.
From the movie of the same name.
Actually, no, but the song was "Hurricane," and it was written back in 1976.
Again, who the heck?
Well,
Anyway,
he's
how
actually,
about this? How about this? It's just like the printer at News 12 where I used to work.
yeah.
It's always jamming. Bob Morley.
We got the first name right anyway. Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan. All right.
Right. Now here's a bonus. "Autumn Leaves."
Those autumn leaves Tony Bennett.
No, Joe, you should get this one
Why should I get
because
this one?
he's because it's Nat King Cole.
I don't remember Nat King Cole singing about autumn leaves.
Well, apparently he did.
Oh, well, what do you want out of my life?
Well, he didn't do too bad. I think he did better than I did.
Okay.
You know, that was pretty good. All
Mm.
right, so here we are on a Thursday night. So uh, Sunday, I got something to do during the day. So why don't we come on Sunday night? Does that work for you?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So we're gonna do a Sunday night show this coming Sunday because I am I'm gonna go. I haven't seen my grandsons in a few weeks, and I'm gonna go take a ride down on Sunday morning to go see them. So I'll be back in the evening, and then we can jump on and do a short show Sunday night. Does that work?
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
And in the meantime, if Fred does something surprising, I may pop on tomorrow or pop on Saturday. Otherwise, we will see you Sunday evening. Figure 8 o'clock ish, and I think 8 o'clock ish would probably work. So write that down on your calendars. Well, actually, no, put it in your phone. Nobody writes things down on calendars anymore, or maybe they do. No matter. Sunday at 8. All right, so everybody, thanks for being here tonight. The chairman hitting super chat. Thank you. The final results of tonight's poll, Joe, 66%. 66%, 79 votes, 2/3 say the dew point will not uh, go below 50. So it has to get to 49. So the dew point will not go below 50 in New York City, and only 34%. You said you're part of this, and you said yes, and I can't vote, but
Yes,
if I could vote, I would vote for the yes. So that's
we'll
it.
see.
All right, folks. Thanks for being here, and Joe and I will see you on Sunday. Good night, everybody.
Nighty night.